Love is supposed to feel safe. It's supposed to wrap you in warmth, steady your heartbeat, and make you believe in tomorrow. But sometimes, love turns into a performance, a carefully rehearsed play where one person delivers lines without meaning. Them. And the most heartbreaking part? You can feel it. Deep inside, your intuition whispers that something isn't right, even when his lips say, "I love you." At first, the signs are subtle. He still holds your hand, but the grip feels looser. He still sends a message, but the words are shorter, emptier. He still shows up, but his presence feels distant, as if he's in another world entirely. And yet, you keep giving him the benefit of the doubt. You tell yourself, maybe it's stress, maybe it's work, maybe love isn't supposed to feel like the movies. But your heart knows. It knows when love is real, and it knows when it's being faked. Pretending to love someone is easier than most people think. It doesn't require deep commitment, sacrifice, or effort. All it takes are the right words at the right time, a smile that masks indifference, a gesture that looks convincing on the surface. But beneath it all, there's an absence, a hollowness that no amount of "I love yous" can fill. That's why you lie awake at night replaying conversations, searching for meaning in his tone, wondering why his actions leave you feeling so alone. The pain of being with someone who pretends is unlike any other. It's not the sharp sting of rejection, it's the slow, suffocating ache of being close yet unloved. You're caught in between. He hasn't left you, but he hasn't truly chosen you either. You become stuck in limbo, clinging to hope while drowning in doubt. And every day, your soul grows a little heavier, carrying the weight of questions you're too afraid to ask out loud. But here's the truth. Love should not make you feel invisible. Love should not leave you wondering whether you matter. Love should not feel like a puzzle you're constantly trying to solve. Real love is clear. It doesn't hide. It doesn't pretend. It doesn't make excuses. It shows up in words and actions, in the way someone looks at you, in the way they fight for you even when it's inconvenient. That's why recognizing the signs is so important. Because once you see them, you can't unsee them. You realize that the problem isn't you being too sensitive or too demanding. It's him not being truly invested. And while that realization is painful, it's also powerful. It gives you the clarity to decide whether you'll keep accepting pretense or whether you'll choose yourself instead. In this guide, we'll uncover 12 clear signs that he's pretending to love you. These aren't guesses, and they're not exaggerations. They're the patterns, behaviors, and contradictions that reveal the truth hiding behind his words. If any of these resonate with you, trust your instincts. Because love is meant to make you feel chosen, not tolerated. He avoids future conversations. He avoids future conversations, and that alone tells a story deeper than silence. When someone truly loves you, they weave you into their tomorrow. They talk about vacations, plans, even the little things like what you'll eat next weekend or who you'll visit together. A man pretending to love you avoids those threads of connection. He keeps conversations locked in the present moment because the future would expose his lack of intention. It's like he's building a house on quicksand. Words without foundation. Promises without roots. You may notice he changes the subject when you bring up long-term ideas. If you ask about meeting his family, he dodges. If you suggest a trip, he says, "We'll see," but never confirms. That hesitation is not forgetfulness. It's avoidance born out of disinterest. Pretending requires effort, and avoiding the future is his easiest escape. Real love leans toward tomorrow because real love is hungry to grow. When he pretends, he lives in a performance loop, acting affectionate in small doses, but never committing to the idea of permanence. And the silence about the future becomes heavy. You might feel the gap widening even when he's sitting right next to you. You might notice that your own excitement about building something lasting gets shut down with his indifference. Love isn't just about holding hands now. It's about dreaming together. When he refuses to dream with you, he shows you the truth he doesn't say out loud. The pain is not in what he avoids, but in how it makes you question your worth. You replay conversations, wondering why he never speaks of tomorrow. You shrink yourself, thinking maybe you asked too much. But the reality is that someone who loves with depth can't help but paint pictures of the future. They do it naturally, without force. So if he avoids those conversations, take it as the sign it truly is. He isn't building a life with you, he's buying time. And the longer you ignore it, the heavier it will weigh on your heart. Because real love is forward-facing, while pretense is always stuck in the temporary. His words don't match his actions. His words don't match his actions. And that mismatch is one of the clearest signs he's only pretending to love you. Love isn't proven in what someone says, it's revealed in what they do. A man can say, "I love you," every single day, but if he doesn't back it up with care, respect, and consistency, the words are just empty echoes. Actions are the real language of the heart, and when they don't align with his promises, you're left living in confusion. He may talk about how much you mean to him, but when you truly need him, on a tough day, at an important event, or in moments of vulnerability, he's absent. He may call you the most important person in his life, yet you constantly feel like an afterthought. This is because he knows the right words to keep you hooked, but he doesn't have the intention or desire to live them out. Pretending is easier when you rely on sweet phrases, because words are cheap, while real actions cost effort, sacrifice, and consistency. The cracks appear when you realize his behavior contradicts the picture he paints. He says he'll be there, but he doesn't show up. He tells you he respects you, but he dismisses your feelings. He claims you're his priority, but you catch him making choices that push you aside. And each contradiction chips away at the trust you once held. Real love brings alignment between heart, voice, and action. It creates safety because you can rely on what he says. When the opposite happens, it leaves you unsettled, doubting, second-guessing whether the affection was ever real. What hurts most isn't just the broken promises, but the slow realization that the words you believed in were never grounded in truth. It makes you question your own judgment, replaying conversations where he said all the right things, only to leave you feeling abandoned in the reality of his choices. This gap between words and actions is more than carelessness. It's deception masked as affection. And if you find yourself constantly forgiving the inconsistency, it's not love you're holding on to, but the illusion he created with his words. True love doesn't need perfect words. It needs honest actions that match. Without that, his love is nothing more than a performance. He rarely initiates contact. And that silence is louder than any words. In the beginning, you might have felt a spark. He called first. He sent good morning texts. He seemed eager to hear your voice. But when the interest fades, the effort fades with it. Love thrives on connection, on wanting to reach out just to know how the other person is doing. When a man rarely initiates contact, it shows you exactly where you stand in his priorities. You start noticing that you're always the one sending the first message. You're the one dialing his number. The one asking if he's free. Days might pass without a word from him, unless you take the step to remind him you exist in his world. And when he does reply, it's often short, distracted, or delayed, as if your presence is an obligation instead of a joy. Real love doesn't need to be begged for. Someone who truly cares can't help but reach out. They're curious about your day. They want to share theirs. And even the smallest detail feels worth mentioning. Pretending love, however, doesn't come with that urgency. He gives just enough attention to keep you from walking away, but not enough to make you feel secure. He'll say he's busy or bad at texting, but deep down you know that when people care, they make time, even for a quick message. The excuses stack up, and you're left wondering why you're always chasing someone who never runs toward you. The most painful part is the way this one-sided effort chips away at your confidence. You may start doubting yourself, thinking maybe you're too needy, too available, or too much. But it isn't you, it's him. His lack of initiation is proof of his lack of genuine investment. Love inspires effort, not avoidance. And when you're the only one holding the line of communication, it's not a relationship. It's a performance where you're playing both roles. When someone loves you, their voice seeks you out. When they don't, silence becomes their answer. And if you find yourself always reaching out into the emptiness, remember, love should feel mutual, not one-sided. His rare contact isn't forgetfulness, It's a reflection of where his heart truly isn't. 4. Affection feels forced. Affection feels forced, and that's one of the most painful truths to face. Love, when it's real, flows naturally. A touch on the arm, a kiss on the forehead, a warm hug. These things don't need to be rehearsed. They happen because the heart can't help but reach out. But when a man is only pretending, affection becomes mechanical. You feel it in the stiffness of his body when he hugs you, in the delayed kiss that feels more like duty than desire, in the way his hand slips from yours too quickly, as though holding on is uncomfortable. At first, you may tell yourself it's just stress or distraction. You may convince yourself he's tired, that life is weighing on him. But as time goes on, the pattern becomes impossible to ignore. He shows affection when he senses you're drifting away, almost like a reflex to pull you back, not because he truly feels close. It becomes a strategy to keep you from questioning his love, a tactic to calm the doubts rising in your chest. Real affection is alive. It lights up your soul because it carries warmth and intention. Forced affection, on the other hand, feels cold and empty. It's like someone handing you flowers without caring if they bloom. You notice the hesitation, the lack of spark in his eyes, the absence of tenderness in his gestures. And the hardest part is the loneliness you feel even when he's holding you. His arms might be around you, but his heart isn't there. Pretending love often slips through in these quiet physical moments because you can't fake energy. Your body knows when affection is genuine, and it recoils when it isn't. That's why you walk away from his embrace feeling emptier than before, questioning why closeness feels so far. True love doesn't need reminders. It seeks connection, naturally, through both words and touch. If his affection feels forced, it's not your fault. It's his truth showing itself in the one place he can't completely control: the way he holds you. He's emotionally distant, and that distance cuts deeper than physical space. You can be sitting right next to him on the couch, but it feels like he's 1,000 miles away. Real love draws two people into each other's inner worlds. It's about sharing fears, dreams, and the unpolished parts of life. But when a man is pretending to love you, he keeps those doors locked. He might talk about work, daily tasks, or surface-level details. But when it comes to his true emotions, he becomes a wall. You'll notice how hard it is to get him to open up. Questions about how he feels are met with one-word answers, shrugs, or a quick subject change. When you share something vulnerable, your stress, your hopes, your pain, he listens without depth, offering little more than nods or vague responses. It's not that he doesn't understand emotions. It's that he doesn't want to invest his in you. Pretending love thrives on keeping things shallow, because emotional closeness would require sincerity he doesn't feel. The absence of emotional presence makes you feel alone, even in the relationship. You may catch yourself talking less because you already know he won't really engage. Or worse, you start lowering your expectations, convincing yourself that maybe this is just how men are. But deep down, you know the truth. When someone truly loves, they can't help but let their emotions leak through. They care about your feelings. They worry when you're hurt. They celebrate when you're happy. That emotional resonance is what creates intimacy, and without it, the relationship becomes hollow. What hurts most is the subtle rejection you feel every time he pulls back from deeper conversations. It's as if your heart keeps reaching out, only to be met with silence. Over time, that emotional distance can feel heavier than any argument because it leaves you starved for connection. And no matter how many smiles he gives or how many "I love yous" he says, the emptiness between you says more than words ever could. Love is not just about being present in body. It's about being present in soul. If he withholds that, his love is not real, it's only performance. He hides you from his inner circle. And that choice reveals more than he realizes. When someone is genuinely proud of the person they love, they can't wait to bring them into their world. They want their friends to know you, their family to meet you, their coworkers to see the light you bring into their life. Love doesn't stay in the shadows. It seeks connection and inclusion. But when a man keeps you apart from the people closest to him, it's not an accident. It's a sign that his feelings don't run as deep as his words claim. You may notice how he avoids introducing you at gatherings. He makes excuses about why it's not the right time to meet his family. When his friends are around, you're conveniently not invited. Even on social media, where people naturally share glimpses of their lives, he keeps your presence hidden or vague. At first, he may justify it, saying he's private, or that he doesn't like mixing personal life with family. But over time, the pattern becomes too clear. He's intentionally separating you from the parts of his world that matter most. Pretending to love someone is easier when you keep the relationship in isolation. By hiding you, he avoids accountability. His family can't see how distant he really is. His friends can't call out the lack of sincerity, and you're left feeling like a secret instead of a partner. This isn't about being shy or reserved. It's about protecting an image of freedom while keeping you on the side. And deep down, you feel it. Real love is proud. Real love wants to weave you into every part of life, not keep you in a hidden corner. The most painful part is how this erodes your sense of worth. You start wondering if you're not good enough, if maybe there's something wrong with you. But the truth is, hiding you says more about him than it does about you. A man who truly loves doesn't hesitate to stand beside you in front of the world. When he hides you, it's because his heart isn't fully invested, and no amount of excuses can disguise that. Your needs are ignored, and that neglect speaks louder than any declaration of love. A relationship isn't built only on affection. It survives on attention, compromise, and the willingness to see and meet each other's needs. When a man truly loves you, he doesn't just hear your words, he listens to them. He notices when you're tired, when you need reassurance, when you need a little extra care. But when he's pretending, your needs become invisible. He takes what you give but rarely gives back. You may find yourself repeating the same requests, small things, like asking for help with a chore, wanting more quality time, or needing him to show up when he promised. Yet somehow those requests are brushed aside. He nods, says, "Sure," but nothing changes. Over time, you realize that he isn't forgetting. He simply doesn't prioritize you. Your needs are inconvenient to him because pretending doesn't require effort. It only requires performance. The imbalance grows heavier the longer it continues. You pour energy into the relationship, making sacrifices, going out of your way to care for him. But when you look for reciprocity, you're met with excuses. "I've been busy." "You're overthinking." "It's not a big deal." Phrases that dismiss what matters to you. And slowly, your needs shrink, not because they disappeared, but because you've been trained to believe they don't matter. That silence becomes a kind of survival, convincing yourself to stop asking so you won't be disappointed again. But love, when real, doesn't ignore. It responds. Even imperfectly, someone who cares tries. They may not always get it right, but they show effort because your happiness matters to them. When your needs are ignored repeatedly, it's not a misunderstanding, it's clarity. He's showing you where you stand, and it isn't at the center of his life. The cruelest part is how this neglect makes you question your own worth. You start wondering if you're asking for too much when, in truth, you're asking for the bare minimum: respect, care, and consistency. Real love meets those needs naturally, while pretense avoids them at all costs. If your needs are ignored, it isn't because you're too much, it's because his love is too little. 8. He makes excuses constantly. He makes excuses constantly, and those excuses become the cracks where the truth slips through. In a real relationship, love shows up, even when life gets busy, even when things get hard. Someone who cares will find ways to be present, to keep their word, to honor the promises they make. But when a man is only pretending, he leans on excuses to cover the gaps between his words and his actions. Instead of consistency, you get reasons. Instead of reliability, you get explanations. And over time, those excuses start to sound like a broken record. At first, you might believe him. He says work ran late, that he was tired, that he forgot. You give him the benefit of the doubt because you want to believe his heart is in the right place. But then the pattern forms. He cancels plans at the last minute, avoids serious conversations with "not now," and promises to make it up to you but never does. Every excuse becomes a bandage covering the reality that he doesn't want to invest. Excuses are convenient for someone pretending because they buy time. They let him appear caring without ever truly committing. He doesn't have to admit disinterest because the excuse gives him cover. But while words can distract, the feeling they leave behind cannot be disguised. You notice the disappointment, building each time, the frustration of being let down, the exhaustion of trying to hold on to someone who never really shows up. The damage goes beyond missed plans. It eats at trust. You start to wonder if you can rely on him for anything at all. Real love builds security, pretending erodes it. And the cruel twist is how he may even flip the blame, saying you're too demanding or too sensitive when all you wanted was consistency. His excuses protect his comfort, but they cost you your peace. Love doesn't need excuses. It thrives on effort. When someone truly loves you, they move mountains to be there, or at the very least, they own their mistakes instead of hiding behind them. If all you're left with are reasons instead of results, you're not in a partnership, you're in a performance. And no matter how convincing his excuses sound, the truth is simple. If he wanted to, he would. Intimacy feels transactional. Intimacy feels transactional, and that shift drains the soul of the relationship. Real love makes closeness feel effortless. Touch, affection, and intimacy flow from a place of genuine connection. It's not about keeping score, not about earning or trading. When a man truly loves you, intimacy becomes a natural expression of his feelings, a way of saying without words, "I'm here, I'm yours, I care." But when he's pretending, intimacy turns into something mechanical, conditional, even strategic. It feels less like love and more like an exchange. You start to notice the patterns. He becomes affectionate only when he wants something in return. Physical closeness shows up after arguments, not to heal wounds but to silence your questions. Kisses and touches lose their warmth, becoming gestures that keep you from looking too closely at what's missing. Instead of making you feel secure, these moments leave you emptier, as though your body was used to cover up the absence of his heart. The truth is, transactional intimacy is a tactic. It gives just enough illusion of love to keep you from walking away, but never the depth that makes you feel cherished. He may say all the right things in those moments, but you feel the lack of sincerity. It's a performance, not passion. And afterward, you're left wondering why closeness feels like distance in disguise. What makes this especially painful is the way it confuses your instincts. Intimacy should bond two people, but instead it becomes a reminder of how separate you really are. You start questioning yourself, wondering if you're imagining the lack of connection. But deep down, you know, real love doesn't treat intimacy like a transaction. It doesn't withhold affection until it's convenient, and it doesn't use closeness to mask disinterest. When love is true, intimacy deepens trust. When love is fake, intimacy becomes a tool. And if every kiss feels like payment, every hug feels staged, then the truth is already in front of you. He's not giving you love. He's giving you just enough illusion to keep you waiting for something that will never come. 10. He's distracted when with you. He's distracted when with you, and that distraction cuts deeper than silence. Love, when it's genuine, brings presence. A man who truly loves you leans in, listens, and makes you feel like the most important person in the room. But when he's pretending, his body may be there, yet his mind is elsewhere. You see it in the way his eyes drift to his phone during dinner, in the way he nods without really hearing, in the way his energy feels split every time you're together. At first you excuse it. Everyone gets busy. Everyone has things on their mind. But with him, it's not just occasional. It's constant. When you speak, his replies are half-hearted. When you share something meaningful, he looks away. Instead of feeling cherished, you feel invisible. And that invisibility stings more than arguments ever could, because it whispers the truth. His heart is not fully with you. Distraction becomes his shield. If he doesn't give you his full attention, he doesn't have to fully engage. He doesn't have to connect deeply. or let you see how little he's invested. Pretending love thrives on this surface-level presence. It creates the illusion of companionship without the reality of connection. He can sit beside you, hold your hand, even smile, yet you feel utterly alone. The hardest part is the way it makes you shrink. You stop sharing stories because you know he isn't listening. You hold back your feelings because you fear they'll be dismissed. Slowly, you begin to silence yourself, not out of peace, but out of exhaustion. And in that silence, the relationship feels more like a performance than a partnership. Real love doesn't require perfect focus every second, but it does create intentional moments of presence. A man who loves you wants to look into your eyes, wants to know the details of your day, wants to give you his attention because being with you feels like home. If he's distracted every time you're together, it's not just forgetfulness. It's a reflection of where his heart is not. And the truth is simple. Someone pretending to love you will never be fully present, because presence cannot be faked. Apologies without change. Apologies without change are empty echoes, and when you start hearing them over and over, you begin to realize the truth. A man who truly loves you doesn't just say, "I'm sorry," he proves it. His apology comes with reflection, effort, and a visible shift in how he treats you. But when he's pretending, the apology is just a tool. It's a quick way to patch over conflict without ever addressing the wound. At first, those apologies feel comforting. You want to believe him. You want to trust that the tears in his eyes or the softness in his voice mean something. But then the cycle repeats. He apologizes for not showing up, yet he still cancels. He says he'll do better, but he slips back into the same patterns within days. He promises change, but his actions betray his words. And every time it happens, the apology loses weight until it becomes nothing more than a script he knows by heart. Pretending love thrives on these hollow sorries. They buy him forgiveness without requiring growth. They allow him to keep you close, to quiet your doubts just enough so you don't walk away. But while his lips form the words, his heart never follows through. He doesn't reflect on the pain he caused or work to prevent it from happening again. For him, the apology is the end of the conversation, not the beginning of change. The most painful part is how these false apologies affect you. At first you cling to hope, convincing yourself that maybe this time he means it. But as the pattern repeats, you begin to feel foolish for believing him. The disappointment grows heavier, not just because of what he did, but because of the realization that he never intended to do better. That repeated cycle erodes trust until you stop expecting anything at all. Real love understands that mistakes happen, but it also understands that love means growth. A true apology doesn't need perfection, only sincerity and effort. If he says sorry but never changes, then what he's offering you isn't love, it's performance. And every time you accept those empty words, you're giving him permission to keep pretending. 12. You feel unloved despite his words. You feel unloved despite his words. And that contradiction is the most haunting sign of all. He might say, "I love you" every morning. He might repeat it before hanging up the phone. He might sprinkle it into conversations as though the words themselves are enough to sustain you. But love is not proven in repetition. It's felt in presence, in consistency, in the small, quiet ways someone chooses you. When those actions are missing, the words start to sound hollow. Deep down you notice the emptiness. His "I love you" doesn't warm you anymore. It leaves you questioning. Why do I feel lonely when I'm not alone? Why do his words not match the way he treats me? Real love has a way of filling spaces, of making you feel secure, even in silence. Pretended love leaves you aching, as though something vital is missing, even when he insists otherwise. That ache is your heart telling you the truth his words try to cover. You may try to reason with yourself, thinking maybe you're expecting too much, maybe your standards are too high. But the truth is simple. When love is real, you don't have to question it. You don't have to wonder whether his words carry weight, because his actions prove them every single day. Love becomes visible through effort, patience, sacrifice, and care. If you feel unloved despite hearing the words, It's because his actions are revealing what his mouth refuses to admit. The cruelest part of this experience is how it slowly wears you down. You begin to doubt yourself, asking whether you're hard to love, when in reality, the problem is not within you, but within him. He's pretending, and your intuition knows it. That's why the dissonance feels so heavy, because your heart can sense the absence of truth. Love is not meant to be a guessing game. It's not meant to keep you wondering if you're valued. Real love is steady, visible, and alive in every gesture, every word, every silence filled with care. If you feel unloved despite his words, listen closely to that feeling. It's the purest truth you'll ever get. Because love, when real, never makes you doubt that it exists.